Hello. If you ever want the market to spice up a bit, just ask me to write an email saying how quiet things are, how everyone's waiting for Jackson Hole, the J. Powell speech at the end of the week, and we'll have this market action presented to you immediately. Funny old day today, Nasdaq down 300 or so, 1% almost at lows. We just had a little sniff at those a few moments ago. YM holding up, Dow holding up, S&P just about crumbling now, Russell crumbling a little bit. What else we got on the docket? Crude oil is where is crude oil? I lost it. Have I deleted off? There we go. Down 1%. It's an interesting day, right? Out of nowhere, middle of the summer, middle of August, bang, here comes a little 1.3% down day for you Nasdaq traders, just when you thought you could relax a little bit and crack open a beer. No. What else we got? The commodities, gold off a smidge. Coffee, if anyone trades coffee, that's rallied hard at the moment. Check out that chart if you're a trend trader, commodities type trader. And natural gas off a little bit. Don't normally look at those, but if they are over 3% move, they catch my eye, I'll bring them up. And as we speak, of course, Nasdaq will be testing lows, as per when we tend to do these webinars. Isn't it funny, actually? I always think every time I come on this, it's like there's always seems to be an unusual spike in volatility. Anyway, this is today. We'll get started in a moment, guys, but so this is the sort of thing that hopefully is going to help you, through your whole trading journey. That's my objective with this, and we'll kind of go into details about what we'll cover. Let me just get my pieces together. I'm going to read you an extract from a book in a moment, and we will get started. Thank you for joining me. I know you're probably busy. You've got stuff going on. It's the summer break for a lot of people. Obviously, market's active, but you being here today tells me that you're investing in your trading future. You think, you know what, 45 minutes now, this is, if I take away one or two little things, that's going to help me loads. And that's my objective. It's always my objective with these things. So we are doing the Summer Stoic webinar series. This is week 3. We've got one more week to go, and then we'll kind of shift things up a little bit of a gear and put a bit more intensity into things as we go into September and kind of maybe Q4. I suppose to introduce myself, if you haven't met me before or virtually met me before, my name is Mark Holstead. I run these webinars in partnership with Pepperstone. Thank you, Pepperstone, allowing me to kind of talk about what I think is valuable for you. Been trading for a couple of decades plus, almost 25 years now, not quite 24. Yeah, 24. Fortunate enough to know a lot of really successful traders. Also see a lot of traders who struggle. So I kind of come from the perspective of, yes, I've got my own experience to draw on and my own journey as a trader. That I can impart some of the kind of experiences that I've had with you and help you with that, but also observing how other traders trade, different styles, different strategies. Just to mind, different people have got completely different approaches to risk reward ratios and are doing very well, different approach to time frames, approaches to markets they trade. And so what I try and do with these webinars and anything that I share with you, one, I just love talking about trading. How can you not when you've been in the game since you're 21 or whatever it was? I love talking about trading, guys. I love trading, I love talking about trading, I love sharing with you and helping traders who want to learn. If some of the stuff I say helps you, then that's a big win for me, because it's one of these things, isn't it, where you're not saving lives here, are we? But it's nice to see that there's some value from it. So yeah, I come from that perspective, help you. I look at all the other traders that I am in contact with, and I try and take some of the things that I see them struggling with consistently and show that as a kind of warning sign, a trapdoor. And I try and look at some of the things that I see, how people overcome hurdles and how people get to the next level, the next station with their trading. And I go, hey, that's interesting. I didn't do that way, but some one of these people have. Okay, that might be worth sharing. So I'll take that and mix and match it into all this type of stuff. Before we get started, well, let's get started right now, shall we? Coming up to 6 o'clock. I'm going to read you an extract, not from my 100-year-old book that I was parading last week. This is going to be from something slightly newer. This is Tom Hugard's book. Good guy, Tom. And let me find where I did put a poker chip in here. There we go. Yes, my poker chip as a bookmark. So let me read you this extract, if I may, for a moment. And it's on the theme of mindset and stuff. And we'll kind of you'll see how this segues into the webinar in a moment. So the ideal mindset. So this is a book, I definitely recommend getting this. Best Loser Wins. And Tom says this: the ideal trading mindset has no fear. If you are alarmed by this statement, then pause for a second. The ideal mindset may have no fear, but the ideal mindset is still acting in your best interest. The ideal mindset might be fearless, but is not reckless. Fear plays a significant role in explaining why people lose the game of trading. This fear can manifest itself in several ways. It can be the fear of not being in the market and missing a good move. It can be the fear of staying in the market for too long and seeing the open profits disappear. Can you acquire the ideal mindset? Tom says yes, without a doubt. You may have to grow into it. You may have to begin a period of significant introspection and get to know thyself. He goes on one more paragraph here. The ideal trader mindset does exist, and you can train yourself towards this state of thinking and believing. When you arrive at this state, it means you are able to perceive information from the markets without feeling threatened or fearful. Does it mean you will never lose? No, you will have losing trades just like everyone else. However, the ideal trading mindset is at peace with losing trades as it is with winning trades. Neither will impact your ability to unemotionally and dispassionately perceive market information in a non-threatening frame of mind. Your emotional state will stay in balance. Perfectly written by Tom there. And this really is what we're trying to do with these webinars, guys. We are taking, or I'm taking, some inspiration and ideas from the Stoics. And today we're talking about forging the trader's inner citadel. And the idea of this is to really kind of replicate what Tom's saying there, which is to create a mindset that is so robust that you are able to manage whatever it throws at you. Because trading is tricky, trading is hard, it's super challenging. And whatever you trade, however you trade, you will be tested. You will feel like you can't do anything right. You will feel like you're the best trader in the world. You will go through all these emotions. And what we must do as a trader, to sort of echo what Tom's saying there, is that we can't perceive a win or loss, a mistrade, an early exit, any different from anything else. Now, are we human beings? Of course we are. And we should celebrate that fact. We're not robots. Good. And we wouldn't want to be a robot, right? So we're not trying to become robotic and unemotional, but we're trying to recognize, last week we talked a bit more about this, self-awareness, just understanding, how our emotions are impacting our decisions. Because I don't care if you are an active scalper, a swing trader, whether you're managing £1,000 account or you're managing £1 million account, it's all relative. And ultimately, your mindset is going to dictate your level of success in this business. Okay, so I'm wobbling around here. Let's move that. There we go. Okay, so today, great quote from Marcus Aurelius. Going to take a few quotes, of course, from the Stoics as we go through this. The obstacle is the way, which is a perfect way of saying, and you will see in a moment as I kind of cover some drills and ideas and thoughts of how to kind of forge this trainer's inner citadel, if you like, or robust mindset, is you have to reframe and kind of jumping ahead of myself here, but reframing the challenges and the emotions, especially the negative emotions you feel in trading, as a positive, because they are hardening you to the journey you've got ahead. And if you ask anyone who has achieved anything great in their life, you'll hear the same old thing, right? It's the journey that made me, it's not the result. Why do lottery winners blow money, as soon as they get it? Because they various reasons, but the mindset is not in this place of, okay, I've got 50 million pounds in my bank account now. I've built my way up to this through whatever it might be. It's a very different mindset from someone who's handed that. And I think it's kind of the same with trading. I've seen traders who have made a lot of money very, very quickly and blow it again because they haven't cultivated and crafted the mindset that comes with it. And it's kind of the same, if you see traders who have earned their way up through the years, built an account, had these good years and maybe some drawdowns and kind of built and had robust, they've generated and built a mindset. So I know everyone's in this game to try and to make profit. That's the whole objective, right? That's why we're sitting here looking at the screens watching price. But ultimately, don't forget that the goal is to be able to weather any storm, be able to trade, for a lifetime if you wanted to do that, and build the skill set that will support you with that. Okay, so probably should say this before we get going. A little risk disclaimer. You're all very, very familiar with this already, I know. If you're not, please just understand if you're trading via a spread bet or CFD or any other leveraged instrument, you've got a high risk of losing money rapidly. And just please understand that this is the dangerous business, right? There's people who put money into an account and lose it very, very quickly. That's not what we're trying to do. And we have kind of ideas and ways to manage risk with stop losses, trading with lower position size. And actually, one of the things we talk about today, even though it's not physically risk management, being able to be calm and cool and robust, that to me is really, really good risk management, because it enables you to kind of cut the loser and go, hey, there's no problem. You're not a deer in headlights. You're not adding to losing trades. You're not doing massive damage to your account. When you go on a losing streak, you pull yourself back. You go into a recovery program. You don't do the things that often traders do, which I think is kind of the highest risk of, they end up doing damage and damage. But that being said, just make sure if you're trading that you trade with money you can afford to lose. Understand the product you're trading, the instrument you're trading, how it all works. If you're not sure, demo accounts are there to be used for that purpose. Play around with it. You get used to it. See what happens. See how quickly the P&L goes with different position sizes. See what the risks are, etc. So don't need to dwell on that, but hopefully everyone here appreciates that. And the reason I kind of, I don't have to dwell on this and talk about this too much, but, I'm a trader who's seen so many things throughout my trading journey. And one of the things that I don't like seeing is when people who didn't really understand the risks of what they were doing, didn't really understand how leverage impacted that, and got caught up in things. That's one of I really don't like to see that. Listen, if you go with your eyes wide open, you make some poor trades, you lose a bit of money. We all do. It's the nature of the beast. It's the learning curve. But, just understanding the risks involved with it. Okay, let's put that to one side if you're still here after that. And let's talk about recapping the journey so far. So week 1, we talked about concentration and focus, sharpening your attention, removing noise. I speak from my perspective. If I'm not fully on point and dialed in, I am not a very good trader. I have to have complete focus and attention. I had to draw on all my reserves to be able to interpret price, interpret the tape, interpret all the other things that I need to. Where's the risk on this trade? What do I really think about it? Should I wait a little bit longer? Hey, should I even wait for one more sequence? Should I step back? All this stuff requires concentration. So we talked about that and keeping that focus, how to regain it, ideas to kind of bring yourself back into the kind of concentrated point, all that type of stuff. Week 2 talked about self-awareness. I think this is the superpower. Honestly, it's one of the most important things as a trader. Recognizing how you feel, not squashing it, not pushing that beach ball down under the water so it pops back up, cracks you in the face, as we've all done at some point in our lives. It's saying, hey, I'm feeling frustrated by this. I wanted to get short, or I was short. Using today as an example, you were short, you got stopped out, it's now rolled over. I'm going to get my money back. I'm going to try and get long. And recognizing, hang on a second, I do feel frustrated. I do need to do something about this. Great traders are very self-aware. I've seen this with many traders who are, I would consider great or very good at least. It's the self-awareness, and they're stepping back, or they're pushing hard, or they're whatever they're doing. It's all based on how they're feeling, and not necessarily they're trading. Oh, I feel like it's going long. I feel like it's going high. I'm going to get long. Not that, but it's a case of I'm feeling actually that I'm reading the market well. I'm feeling I'm reading the market poorly. Okay, and adjusting their operational tactics based on how they feel. Self-awareness is important. Week 3, which is today, forging the inner citadel. So we're trying to, the inner citadel, a Stoic term, we're trying to build the inner armor that no trading environment, no sequence of events, no losers, no winners can get through. And Marcus Aurelius said this is a great quote from him. You have the power, or you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And honestly, I want to dwell on this for just a moment. I think I've mentioned this quote several times before. But the reason this is so important, guys, is that even back then, and all throughout the years since, and this is a human issue, right? No matter whether you're a kind of caveman or whether you're in 2025 wondering if AI is going to wipe you out in the next 6 months, or is going to help you be the best trader on the planet. It's understanding that we can't control what the market does, especially in this business. When we're trading, we cannot control what the market's doing. I don't know if the Nasdaq's going to fall to the floor now. It's going to rip up. Trump's going to tweet. Good news, bad news. We have no control over it. It's a game of probabilities. It's a game of risk, and that's how we approach it, right? However, And because of that, we don't know, and we can't prepare for anything. We can't prepare mentally. Oh, sorry, we can't have certainty mentally. We can prepare mentally and say, hey, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to get stopped out with a full clip. I don't know if I'm going to be on the right side of stuff and add to a trade. It's going to be an absolute monster, or somewhere in between. But I know that the thing that I can control is how I respond mentally to it. Now, the initial reaction may be something that's built in, and it kind of works with time. And I'll show you a funny slide about that in a moment. But it's how you then respond. Because the amateur trader, the beginner trader, the struggling trader, dare I say, and we've all been there. We've all been there, regardless of who you are now and where you are in your journey. We've all been in a point in time where we're kind of grinding through, making the same mistakes, feeling like we just can't do anything. They react by going, oh, that's frustrating. How can I get rid of that frustration? And they don't articulate this per se, but this is the subconscious pathway that happens. I know a quick green trade will help, because what doesn't soothe the pain than a nice, big fat green trade, right? That's because that makes you feel good as a trader. And so without realizing it, your brain goes, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I feel sad, I feel whatever, it might be disappointed. Okay, well, you know what will soothe any of that? A nice green trade. And so the mind then goes to the chart, the mind looks for the easy trade, and the mind then maybe jumps on momentum or tries to jump on a breakout or sees something, convinces himself it's a long or short immediately, and takes that trade. We've all done it. We've all been there at some point. But the kind of experienced trader and the trader who's gone through the journey goes, hang on a second, back to the self-awareness. I recognize I'm feeling a little bit frustrated. I've taken a couple of stops in a row and I was right on direction, for example. But I'm not going to allow that emotion to pollute my next decision. And this is where what Marcus Aurelius was saying. Obviously, he was a very super active crude trader. No, it wasn't. It could have been trading something, right? With open, there might have been some open outcry going on back in those days. But this is exactly what he's saying. It's like you can't control outside events. You can't control specifically how the market reacts, but you can control how you react and the power of your mind, how you perceive this type of stuff. So why does this matter? Why does having control and forging that kind of mental armor matter? And why kind of talking about it today and really emphasizing the importance of this? Because markets do what the hell they want, right? It's a chaotic environment. There's rhythms and things that do repeat and patterns that do repeat, and ultimately that's how we as traders attempt to profit from the market is repeatable patterns: momentum, pause, continue, momentum, flush, wick, pin bar, retracement, all the stuff that's in your playbook. That's a repeating pattern, and ultimately all that is doing is representing on a chart people's emotions, people's ability to kind of reprice, understand price. Market goes lower, tries to push higher, a lot of people piling long, pushes back to lows, they're all trapped, and you've got a higher time for momentum. You then look at that and say, I've seen that before, that's worth me kind of shorting that for a kind of drive to low, or whatever it might be, right? I could come up with a million permutations. We just don't know how it's going to react, but we kind of try to frame probabilities on our side. News comes out, and those are external things, and also from a trading account perspective, the P&L swings. The fake outs in price, even fake outs in your equity curve. I know it sounds silly, but how many times have you kind of felt really great about trading? Your equity curve is going up, and then you kind of make a few bad trades or a few losing trades, not necessarily bad, or let's just say bad trades, mistakes. You make a few mistakes, you're frustrated, and that, if you're not careful, could trigger a cascade lower and lower and lower. I've seen many traders do that, run an equity curve very well, and then just drop it because they can't handle the mistakes. They were enjoying the euphoria. They were riding the high. Their equity curve was at highs. They were feeling great. They made a few mistakes, a few errors, a few poor trades, even a few just standard losing trades. All of a sudden the mindset shifts to, I want to be back at highs, I want to be back at highs, and they change the type of trader they are that got them to those highs in the first place. They go back to old habits, and then it gets worse. The feeling gets worse, frustration. The equity curve watermark highs feel so far away now because they're getting further and further away from it. So every trade they take is more damage, more damage. They start to doubt their confidence. They start to doubt their ability as a trader. They start to see that in black and white with their equity curve, and this starts to reinforce all that negative energy that you have, and you do damage. If you will know exactly what I'm talking about if you've done this. And most of us have done this at some point. And it's the brain that's doing it. It's not your skill, because your skill has enabled you to get up very well with your P&L. But then at some point, your mind has switched and you've not been able to withstand mistakes. And you know why this is as well? And I've thought about this a lot, is the amplitude of emotion is so much greater. If you are feeling good because your equity curve is at highs, you've had a good run, you've traded well, you've been disciplined, all those other things are on point and lined up, you feel great about your trading. Now, if you make a couple of mistakes that do some damage to your P&L, that means the emotional swing is from the highs right to the lows. And this is where the importance of creating a robust mindset and that mental armor is, that it doesn't matter. It's a nothing. It's a couple of bad trading days. It's a couple of mistakes. I don't need to throw everything away, and I don't need to feel like I did before. I admit I don't feel great about this. I'd rather have the account equity curve highs. I'd rather have those trades being green, but this is the reality. I can't control this. I can't control what happens to my P&L or the markets. They're chaotic, but I can control how I respond and react to that feeling of negativity. So that's important. And if your inner state is solid, nothing can break your discipline. It's a really nice place to be as a trader, where you go, do you know what? I don't care. Well, everyone, of course, cares. You'd like your P&L to be green. You'd like to have profitable trades. You'd like to make money. That's why we're in the business, right? But it's a nice place to be, to say, hey, I will take it and I will recover from a losing streak. I will recover from stagnation. I will make a silly error, feel bad about it, move on, and I'll be back to equity curve, I'll recover that trade within a couple of trades or whatever it might be, right? And that is such a powerful place to be as a trader. You don't want to have it spike in emotion after a loss. You want to be calm under pressure and resilient after setbacks. Imagine if you had just those three things. There's so much more that comes with kind of robust mindset in trading, but those three things, would transform a lot of traders watching this, whether you're watching live or you're watching a recording later on. Because, how many times have you kind of made these silly errors? You think, I don't know why I've done it. You've done it because your brain has kind of changed its state. The emotion is tainting and polluting the instruction, if you like, or the trade, and that's ultimately been triggered by something. For some people, it's stagnation, not doing very well, or just sitting there not making much money, make a bit, lose a bit, make a bit, lose a bit. They force it. You're frustrated. I feel like it should be quicker. Force. The brain has caused something. It's drawdown. It's this. It's that. The other. We've all got our own nemesis, right? So mental armor defined. Let's keep moving. We want to be emotionally insulated from P&L. If we're looking at it from a P&L perspective, we want to be completely calm about P&L. How do some traders manage vast amounts of money and stay super calm, and you see other traders who are managing relatively modest amounts who get super stressed, right? The order of magnitude is massive. But how does a trader manage, say 50, 60, 70 million dollar account, pound account? How does that compare to someone managing $4,000 or $5,000 account? I'm not saying there's any, they're the same thing ultimately in trade perspective, but that trader who could have a really modest account compared to that trader is panicking over this, and they're worried about this, and the P&L, I lost $100. Oh my God. Another guy's there, maybe his swings are 100,000, 200,000, and he's how is that possible? It's the emotional insulation from P&L and seeing it as a process focused endeavor as opposed to a P&L focused endeavor. And you want to kind of build this, whatever happens, you're cool, you're calm, and having a kind of framework that allows you to recover after a setback. Now this might be a bit of an unusual slide slip in here. But if you go onto YouTube and you type in, I think, badass Russian soldier ever, right? I always remember this is like a meme. I think it's one of those thug life clips that go around. But this guy, right, he's been interviewed for whatever reason, I don't know, it's in Russian. And there's like artillery fire comes in. It's like, doof, 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 doof. Yeah, and he literally, everyone's running into the building, they're panicking. He literally just gets his cigarette. He's like, he's looking over like this, and then a little bit of shrapnel goes, just pings off, and he's like, and he picks up the shrapnel, and he's like, damn it, it's hot, and they're all coming. I just think that's the kind of mindset you want, right? Is that you're calm under fire. He's obviously been in this situation many times before. He knows he can't control it. Now, okay, is there an argument to say that he's a bit blasé about it and maybe he should take cover for his own safety? Perhaps, but you get what I'm saying. The idea is that as a trader, if you look at the parallel, you're so seasoned to, oh, the market's just suddenly fallen off a cliff and I'm long. Well, you know what? My stop loss will deal with it. I'll sort it out. I don't want to recommend smoking, but you get the idea. And the point is that it's developing this robust mindset that nothing can phase you. And even if, I would hazard a guess that this guy says, even if I took a bit of shrapnel to my leg, I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'll deal with it when it comes. I can't control where that artillery is going to land. I can't control my next trade is going to be a winner or not. So I'll just deal with it. And that quality of mindset allows you to weather any storm. And ironically, he's probably, you hear stories in the military of these guys who are kind of super brave and super gun ho, but they're not reckless, and they're the ones that seem to survive these kind of conflicts. And it might be because the mindset is so like cool and calm. And yeah, there's an excessive risk element there which we don't want to take in this situation or in trading. But hopefully you get the idea. What I'm saying is that confidence of I'll deal with anything and nothing phases me, and I'm super cool, super calm, I'll deal with it. If you can cultivate that in the trading world, then things become a lot easier to handle. Okay, so what time we're? We're good. So let's talk about some drills, some ideas of how to kind of cultivate this. If we're all agreed now, which hopefully we are, I've persuaded you enough that cultivating this robust mindset and like a mental armor, if you want to put it that way, is worthwhile, then it's worth coming up with some drills. And listen, you come up with your own, because one thing I think a lot of developing traders lack is areas that they practice. Practicing, I'm a big advocate of kind of running through trade replays. I'm a big advocate of running through kind of trades in your mind, a big advocate of running through and rehearsing, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever it is, the thing you're trying to get better at. I saw that if you guys seen there's a drummer on YouTube. I can't remember his name. I think it's York or George. And he's a kind of he's Spanish, something like that. But he is incredible. He calls himself something else. I should have prepared for this. But he's an incredible drummer, like just ridiculous. You look at it and go, how? But one thing he'd said, and he was sort of he was doing this a conversation with drummers, and I think they kind of set it up so he was teaching some kids how to drum. And he was saying, and they were talking about the bass drum. And forgive me, I'm not a drummer, so the technicalities of it. But this amazing technique out with the bass drum, which is with your foot, right? And he was saying to this guy how to train that so we could get the specific beat. And it sounded great, right? It sounded great. And he was saying, I do this for hours a day. And I just paused it for a moment. I thought, of course he does. Why would he not? He wants to be the best drummer in the world, and he's pretty close to it. Why would he not pick something that sounds amazing he wants to get good at and do it for hours a day? Of course he's hitting that bass drum hours a day with his feet, because he wants it so that it's absolutely on point. And he'll be doing the same thing with his hand. He'll be doing the same thing with this, because he loves what he does and he wants to get good at it. Too many traders just come in and trade. See the market, trade, just trade. Now, I admit that that's good for reps, that's good for improvement, that's one way of doing it, but you can just do so much better and speed the learning curve up by having some kind of other training that you do alongside your actual trades. And it's difficult, I know, to get the time in to do it for many traders to try and juggle so many things, but it's important to come up with it, because just like that guy who's an incredible drummer, how is he an incredible drummer? Yeah, he plays a lot of drums, but he actually goes, you know what? I need to hit that bass drum for 2 hours today because I want to get it absolutely perfect. I want it to sound so beautiful that everyone's like, wow, I want to do this hand movement on this thing, and I want to practice and practice and practice. And of course, you've got to love it. So hopefully you love trading, enjoy it. Of course we do. Why would we be doing it if we didn't? It's a pretty brutal business, mentally, if you don't love it. But kind of, I'm going off piece slightly, having some sort of training that you do, and you don't have to go crazy and do hours a day. Maybe you don't have hours a day, but just something to get better at the one thing you know is holding you back in trading. So for example, now, maybe it is trying to build that robust mindset that doesn't crumble after a few losers, doesn't crumble after a missed trade, doesn't revenge trade in. And you're like, hang on a second, my P&L is pretty damn good. except for these occasional times where I come in and I do damage because my mindset's wrong. So that's probably the biggest thing I can work on. Fine, jot it all down, have your pre-trade checklist. In the heat of the moment, make sure you're trying to do it. We'll talk about that in a moment, how to kind of cultivate that. But find a way to practice it outside of trading. Maybe it's mentally rehearsing. Again, we'll cover this. I'm going ahead of myself a little bit. Maybe it's mentally rehearsing. Maybe it's doing something. But I really urge you, if you want to get good at trading and want to improve, it's finding something to train alongside the actual executions. Because so many traders I see just trade. And that's one way of doing it, fine. But I think you can speed up the learning curve so much by doing some other forms of trading. All right, back on track. Enough about drumming. We've had drumming, we've had Warzone, we've had a lot of analogies going on here. I'm not finished with analogies yet. I feel like I'm the analogy king or peasant, maybe, if you don't like my analogies. So drill one is loss conditioning. And this is something that one of the traders actually, who I've known from one German trader, you know who you are if you're listening, he kind of came up with this, and it's a really good idea, is to just practice taking repeated losses. And I have to say, use a sim environment, I'm obliged to say that, but you practice taking repeated losses. And the idea here is you're kind of taking, let's imagine you've got a sim up, because for a lot of traders, here's the funny thing, and you might resonate with this, is that very often the losing trade, it isn't the money, it's the fact that you made the error that annoys you more than losing the money. And so that's telling you something. For many traders, they go, I can stomach that £200 loss, £500 loss, £20 loss, whatever trade size you're trading. I can stomach that. But what really stings is the fact that I've made this same mistake. And that might be you as a trader. And that's fixable because it's telling you it matters. It's important. You're on this journey and you're driven, you want to succeed, you want to do more. And it's frustrating you that you can't get over this hurdle. And I don't give a damn about the £200 or whatever it is. It's the fact that I'm making the same error. And so a way to do that is to kind of really focus on this and kind of work out what it is. And so if losing trades puts you on tilt, it makes you frustrated, blah, blah, then you need to get comfortable at taking losers. So get a sim environment, especially if you're that way inclined, it's not the financial thing, sim environment, take a trade, wait for it to come into loser, just get used to taking a loss. Take a 10-point loss, 10-point loss, 10-point loss, 10-point loss. And yeah, a trade might go off in your direction hugely. We'll just close the win. You're not there to make money, you're there to season yourself, but it's okay to hardwire that neuron that says, I'm down, I'm closing, I'm down, I'm closing, I'm down, I'm closing, I'm closing, I'm closing, and just get used to doing that. And the idea here is that you're training your brain to be comfortable with taking a loss because you will always have losing trades in trading. And the idea is we're trying to tilt the odds in our favor, or rather trying to have the risk reward ratio of our winners much higher, so we make more than we do when we lose, or the probability of a win higher, so that we win more often than loss, and a mixture of those two. And so we're going to have losers. It's an expense, it's a cost of doing business. And the idea here is we build the tolerance to the discomfort of taking a loss. And this is a type of thing you can do. If you're on a sim, you can do this on your phone, right? You can be sitting on the line at queue at Starbucks. You can be sitting, waiting to do something. You can be like, right, I'm going to do some loss training now. Take a trade. When are you going to take the loss? I'm going to hit the loss. And you might think this doesn't make any sense to me, but it will if it's something that you struggle with, because all you're trying to do is trying to say it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Take the loss, take the loss, take the loss, take the loss. And the idea here is you're seasoning yourself for the future. Not necessarily the future, but trading when you're in the real money, you're live and you're kind of actually trading and you freeze, you don't want to take the loss, or you take the loss and you feel like, I take a loss. Why am I? You don't want that. You want to be so cool and calm, just like the guy shrapnel. It's like, yeah, man, whatever. Okay, drill 2, embrace discomfort. So this is an interesting one. Again, one you can kind of do. It doesn't take much time, but we're trying to build resilience. And the objective we have is to, just like that drummer who's training his bass drum feet, just like great football player might be just taking penalties and taking shots and taking free kicks and corners and set pieces and goal. He might be like, listen, man, just fire 100 shots at me today. I just want to get good. Whatever it is, right? It's just training it so that you get better at it. And so this is obviously slightly different. You want to feel the frustration. So you're kind of saying, hey, when you're in a trade, you feel the pain of the trade going against you, or you feel the frustration or whatever it might be, and you say to yourself, do you know what? This is good because this is seasoning me to be a better, more robust, more resilient trader. And so now you can't lose mentally. If you have a great trade, it works great for you, fantastic. Your equity curve goes a little bit higher. Brilliant. It's what we all want. If you do something that you don't like, you feel frustration, you end up feeling despondent, annoyed, angry, you go good because now I get to practice in real time, in a real environment, the pain of that and become at peace with it, become relaxed about it. And recognize that every time you feel discomfort, rather than going, oh my God, I want to get this comfort, I want to get back to comfort, I want to get to comfort, and ultimately doing something silly in the market, revenge trading, oversizing it, taking an easy trade, etc. You get good. Let me bathe in this because the more I feel this, the more I'll be like that soldier who shrapnel going off everywhere and just like, you know what, it is what it is. And that type of thing helps you, in the real market conditions. Then you're in a beautiful position. If you could honestly, if you can think about it like this, it is such a powerful place to be. Right. Great if you're a day trader. It's gonna be a nice green P&L day, fantastic. Well, you know what? I'm gonna feel pretty bad about it, but that's good because this is seasoning me for what I've got in store in the future as a trader when I'm trading bigger size, when I'm doing better things. Because I'm building this whole stacks as I go, my skill set, my operational skills, my chart reading ability, and my kind of robust mental armor that I'm doing. Okay, drill 3. Negative visualization training. So this is an odd one, and some people say this is the worst thing to do. I disagree, but I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not an expert in this. I just know that this is kind of, I believe this is helpful. So take it with a pinch of salt, as with all this stuff, right? The idea here is rather than kind of normal visualization where you're visualizing things going your way, you're kind of visualizing, you've got your vision boards and all this type of stuff. We're going to do great trade when you're visualizing the account size you've got and all this type of thing. You do negative visualization trading. So what you do is you picture worst case scenarios in your mind, and this time you walk through them calmly. So what really grates your gears, right? What really annoys you? Is it taking a few losers in a row? Is it getting stopped out in the trade going your way? Is it missing a trade? There's something that will annoy you, and if you don't know, just go back at your trading blotter and see where you started to kind of go downhill, and there'll be a catalyst for that. But I'm pretty sure you'll come up with in your mind right now. And what you do here is you walk through that mentally, and you then say, "Oh man, that's really," and wind yourself up mentally, like, "God, what are you doing, man? Chasing that high, you absolute clown." What are you doing buying your full clip at that high print because you thought you'd get a little scalp to the highs? You feel it, and all the self-talk, right? Because I know that we shouldn't be doing this negative self-talk as a separate thing. But the point here is we want to build that emotion outside of trading. So we're not doing it while we're trading. We're building that feeling that we would have if we we're making that silly mistake, if you like, in the real world. And then what we're doing is we're pausing in our mind the video clip we're playing, and we rehearse our real response. So we feel that frustration. We feel, oh my God, we're stupid. How are you such an idiot buying at the highs? All the self-talk that we know we do because we're our worst kind of self-talker, for want of a better word. And then you rehearse and say, okay, yeah, it was an error. But listen, we don't need to react on the error. I do feel bad. I do feel a little bit disgusted with my behavior there. I do feel frustrated. I do feel angry, whatever it might be. However, I'm going to calm down. I'm going to relax. I'm going to let it dissipate. Now, that might mean walking away. It might be just a 10-second pause. It might mean whatever you need to rehearse for you to stop that and stop the subsequent reaction from that might negatively impact your P&L. So you're practicing these worst case scenarios in your mind. You're walking through them in your brain, how you want to respond. So you're feeling it, you're feeling the negativity that comes with it, and then you're responding in a kind of positive manner in the way that you want to trade. And this actually is a really good way of getting reps in wherever you are. If you can't be in front of the screen, wherever you are in life, and you go, I've got a moment now. You're on a park bench on a walk. Okay, this will help me move forward in my trading. This is my training, if you like, my trader training. I can spend 5 minutes now just thinking about, oh man, would I do that when I kind of add the position I shouldn't do? And man, that really winds me up. And you feel it and you get wound up and you go, yeah, you know what? And you picture that trade, you picture the chart, you do it, and then you rehearse how you want to respond. That helps you then in the real world when you're trading, you're actually clicking the button when you do make the mistake because you're a human being and you do feel the emotion because you're a human being. The response of that is that mental armor that says, you know what? It is what it is. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. But how I respond now is a separator between the great traders and the traders who fall by the wayside. And if you can think like that, then everything becomes a kind of learning and improving zone. So yeah, I kind of go through reframing your setbacks, missing a trade, stop the tick. You know all as well as I do the stuff that can wind you up. You're like, okay, good. It's another rep for resilience I put here, and you hope to be tested. And I kind of went ahead of myself before that when you're trading and you go, hey, if I make a silly mistake, I will use it. And I know it sounds cliche. It's like, oh God, it's such a cliche thing. Learn from your mistakes. Well, everyone says that. But this time you genuinely go, hang on a second. I've made the mistake. I felt the emotion, whatever that negative emotion is. Good, because now I can practice letting it dissipate. I can practice being kind of strong to that emotion and not reacting to that because I can't control what the market does. I can't control my trade. I can control my actions, just like Marcus Aurelius says. And then when you go in, you're kind of, okay, well, I hope to be tested because if I'm tested, it's a win-win. So one other thing you can do is kind of just have a 5-second drill, right? Where you acknowledge the emotion. So let's say you're tested, you feel that, and you want to kind of build that mental armor. You go, yeah, you know what? I'm really annoyed at myself. I'm actually more than annoyed. I'm really disgusted at the way I've traded that. I didn't have any business doing that. I traded everything wrong there. I chased it. I got FOMO. I traded too much size. All the things that you do. Just feel that. You do it. You acknowledge it. And it's 5 seconds reset. And if you can do that, then whatever happens in the future in your trading, you know that you have the ability and the skill to kind of bring yourself back to center. Okay. And actually, talking about this, there's a video out there for Tom, I think it's Tom. He takes a losing trade and he's live streaming his stuff. I'm not sure if he still does this type of thing. He was live streaming a trade, I think, on YouTube. He takes a loser, it pans to him. He's like, oh, you see the pain in his face. He does exactly that. He just breathes and he's kind of reset. And every trader, a good trader, does that, has some way of resetting that, you know what, that's annoyed me. I'm a human being. I'm really jacked off by that. But actually, I'm going to go back to the process. Man conquers the world by conquering himself. Okay, so some final tips here for you guys is think about I think it's better to consider your trade performance in terms of R units rather than pounds. Hide any form of P&L. Consider trading in 10 trade batches. So the idea here is we're trying to not put ourselves specifically in the firing line, like standing under the artillery guns. We're trying to, at least play the game. I say don't play the game on hard mode. If you're staring at P&L, if you get bothered by seeing the P&L swings and you're there staring at your P&L, you're thinking in terms of, I'm up 800, I'm down 400, I'm up 1200, and you're kind of really amplifying that emotion, then make it easy for yourself. Like if you're trying to lose body fat, I use this analogy a lot, but you don't sit there staring at the one thing that's your weakness, a big chocolate cake, a large pizza, pint of beer, whatever. You just sit there staring at it, raw dogging it, going, mustn't do it, mustn't do it, mustn't do it, mustn't do it. You don't do it, right? You just go, you know what? I'm not going to buy any crap in. I'm not going to go to the pub. I'm not going to do that because I'm trying to, this is the goal that's important to me. The same in trading. There are things you can do that make it easier for you to withstand some of those emotional swings. Think in terms of R rather than pounds. Record some journals allow you to put up in terms of R. If not, record in terms of R on a spreadsheet or Excel or whatever, Google Sheets or whatever you've got. Hide your P&L from your screen. If you're using TradingView, you can change it. You have to have a P&L there at all. You can have it in ticks. You can have it in, I think you can have it in R units per se, but you just do what you need to do. Think in terms of 10 trade batches. And this is something that Scottish John, who's a good trader, who's kind of been in our traders mastermind community for a while now, but he thinks in 10 trade batches, and something he's got, let's say, he's pioneered it, but it's something that's caught on a lot. Doesn't matter what each individual trade is. Hey, I'm trading 10 trade batches. My risk per trade is, let's say it's £100, for example. Right, £1,000 risk. Worst case scenario, I'm not going to think the outcome of each trade. I'm only going to audit after the 10 trades and look and go, hey, you know what? I lost 3, but actually, I won 7 there, and actually my result is X. So again, it's anything to detach yourself from the financial element of it. Now, of course, please manage your risk. Please don't be, I'm thinking in terms of our units, not realize how much you have at stake and all that type of stuff. But it's a good way of detaching, immediately of, okay, I'm being influenced by the pound amount as opposed to the actual trade. So quick recovery framework: spot when you're off form, step back, reduce size if needed. I'm not a huge fan of reducing size just because you feel bad, but if you need to, scale it down, steady the ship, step back up, reframe as kind of training. That's a really good way of doing it, and resume when you feel some clarity. Think about adversity is equal to opportunity. So and I know I feel like I've pushed this a lot, but honestly, it's a game changer in terms of how you think. If you can think that every test I have is just one more layer of armor, and again, as Marcus Aurelius says, the obstacle is the way. If you feel the pain and the pressure and the negative emotion associated with something you've done in the market, good, because that builds that armor, it builds the calluses, it builds the resilience, because each time we feel it, the next time it feels a little bit less, it's a little bit less intense, a little bit less intense, a little bit less intense. If traders come up to me and say, Mark, how do you deal with kind of trading this size and doing this and doing that? I've been doing it for 20 plus years, mate. I've seasoned myself. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Of course, I feel frustrated if I make a poor decision. Of course, if I make a mistake, I'm a human being, but I've made millions of mistakes, not millions, but a hell of a lot of mistakes, and still done okay. So, this is where you build the resilience over time, and you say, hey, every time I'm tested, it's good. I like to be tested. And if you're not tested, you make good money on the day or good money in the week, then brilliant. You've got no downside. And that's just a lovely place to be. And one thing you take away from any of this is if you can cultivate that, you're in a good position. So when you build this armor, you won't go blindly on tilt, you won't feel lost in drawdowns, and you'll see every challenge as growth. And the final thoughts here, guys, before we kind of wind up and maybe go to some Q&A, and I also want to tell you about the audio system that you can download, and I'll give to you, and you can get how to get that. But the goal here isn't to avoid chaos in the markets and the negative emotions, right? It's because you're never going to. There's always going to be a time when you are full tilt long and someone comes out and tweets something and you just come straight through your stop. Or even worse, you've not put a stop in, you're there managing it, and which is an operational consideration there. But there's always going to be a worst case scenario. And you hear, stories from traders who just got caught and just think, and it's the way it is. Or even the small things in between that. You buy the high tick, it rolls over, you sell the low, it pops up, stops you out, and then just crumbles, and it's the lowest down day you've had for months. You're like, God, what the? It's always going to happen. And the goal is to remain unmoved by it. And that is the trader's inner citadel. That is, you're forging that mental armor that you go, you know what? This is funny, man. I bought the high print here and I'm annoyed, but am I going to let it influence the way I move forward in the next couple of hours, days, weeks? Absolutely not. Recenter, refocus, and go again. Okay, any questions? Let me know, guys. I'm not Marcus Aurelius, but I'll definitely help you from a trading perspective. Oh, a quick reminder, I'm giving this away. Yes, I am giving this away. Trading Psychology Audio System. This was something I had professionally created for me and instructed someone to do this, and I had binaural beats. I wanted a visualization training, a deep work soundtrack, which the binaural beats. It's got 16 hertz and 30 hertz. Traders priming audio, so it's 5 audios. Come in MP3 format. I will send you the Google Drive link. There's nothing fancy there. It's just a Google Drive link. You download the MP3s and you can play them as and when. And you can work out yourself when to. There's a little kind of instruction at the beginning of them. Some of it's guided, some of it's kind of affirmation, some of it then goes into those binaural beats that you use headphones for to get the maximum way to kind of, what's the way of putting it? Just put your mind in a different state. I find they work. Some people don't like them, but I find they work really well. I like the 30 hertz ones. I use those a lot. The way to get this is if you are subscribed to my daily email, tradersmastermind.com. Subscribe to that daily email. I send out an email every day. I sent an email today saying how quiet the market was yesterday. So yeah, maybe you don't want to subscribe, but I kind of share stuff that I think is valuable to you as a trader. If you reply to that and say, can I have a copy of this? Armand, the guy who deals with my inbox and deals with all this kind of stuff, will just send you a Google Drive link. That's it. There's no hoops to jump through. And you can download that for yourself, and you might find some value from it. You might listen to it once and go, this is a load of rubbish. I'm not interested. Totally up to you, but it's there. It's kind of part of this Summer Stoic series. I think this will help you. It makes sense to match it with that. If you like this type of stuff, if you like thinking long term and trying to build the mindset and trying to help tools to help you, then this I think will help you. I like these. I use these a lot. That's why I had them made. And I thought, you know what? I need to make them so other people can use them. All right. Have I got any questions, ladies and gents? Thank you to Pepperstone. Go and check them out if you haven't yet. Is there a way to get the recordings from sessions, Denise? Is there a way to get the recordings from sessions 1 and 2? Denise, what is there a way to get? Do you know what, if you, I don't know when Pepperstone put these up. Eventually they will go on the YouTube channel, but there's a delay because you sign up for GoToWebinar, and if you've signed up to GoToWebinar, I believe they're still sending out the recordings. If not, email me. The best way to email me is to reply to one of my daily emails, because that comes to an inbox, is always monitored. If you just say, can I get a copy of the recordings, please? Armand will find a copy and he'll send it to you when we have it. I'll send it to you. There's always a couple of people who don't get it for whatever reason, goes into junk, missed the first two. That I know it's not this cleanest and simplest way, but if you just reply to that, Armand will sort it out. He's good at kind of helping people who want a copy of the recording. Hopefully that helps, Denise. Let me bring you guys over here. I don't like looking over there. Okay, Gary says, excellent point regarding frustration, making an avoidable mistake as opposed to the actual money lost. Do you know what, Gary? I think that applies to so many people, and we all go, I don't get it. I've lost 500 quid. Why am I not worried about the 500 quid or the 5 grand? Well, it's because you made a stupid error. That's what's bugging you more. Why is that? Because this matters. And you're here, Gary, I know, regularly. And so anyone else listening and watching this, you're watching this and spending some time out of your day because this matters. You want to become better at this. And you say, you know what, maybe I'll take a few things away that's going to help me become better at it. And so when you make a mistake, when you slip up, the frustration isn't the financial element of it. It's, why am I making this mistake again? I want to get better. I feel like I'm not making forward progress. And for any ambitious trader, that is frustrating. And that's the thing. And it often confuses us. We're like, well, why are you not bothered about the money? Well, because what matters more than this short-term money is where I want to be next year, next 5 years, whatever it might be. And that is the thing that really grates when you're kind of an ambitious trader. Nashi says, hi Mark, kindly share the email contact that we will use to request for the giveaway resource that you spoke about. Yeah, Nashi, if you go to my website, which is Traders Mastermind, the logo's there actually, put that into Google, their homepage, daily email, sign up for that. You will then get the email every day, reply to that. The reason I do it this way is because that definitely will get that. If I give out an email address, sometimes it goes into junk, but if you've got an email from me and you've replied to that, it's guaranteed that I will get it or Armin will get it. He will then send you the Google Drive link. You're good to go. It's the easiest, most seamless way of doing it. And if you want to unsubscribe and you don't want to have daily emails, that's absolutely fine by me. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, a few more. Alex. Alex says, hi, Mark. Thanks so much for the webinars. Appreciate that, pal. I already pre-accept block risk before starting. How would you suggest I combine that with negative visualization, for example, rehearsing worst-case streaks or skipped trades without over-conditioning my mind to expect bad outcomes? Do you know what, Alex? That's an interesting question. And that's always the pushback from negative visualization is, are you kind of seasoning and conditioning yourself to move towards a bad outcome? And that's valid, right? I get it. And like I said, I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't know quite what's going on. I don't think you should spend ages thinking of worst case scenarios, because that just creates anxiety in people. And some people who have a more propensity to that is probably not going to serve them. And like I say, not an expert on this. So you kind of use it as you see fit and what you're trying to achieve. But I think that, if you have an issue with, your let's say a losing streak, or you're missing a trade or whatever, and that's frustrating you, then you kind of just want to rehearse how you react to that. So rather than the expectations, and the thing is, well, with trading, Alex, is we hope that things are going to go our way. but we don't know what's going to happen in the short term. So a bad outcome, losing trade, a mistake, that's going to happen. And so we have to kind of expect that and not be phased by it at some point. And if it's something that is bothering you and you don't want that and you're avoiding it and trying to avoid it too much, when you do inevitably get it in the heat of the moment with live account, it's going to sting because like I've been avoiding this and I've been thinking about it. However, when you kind of get used to it and you kind of get that you don't frame it in your mind as a bad outcome, it's just the cost of doing business. It's a mistake that's going to happen as a trader. It becomes easier in the real environment to deal with it. So I think that it's worth just running through it in your mind. Don't overdwell on it. Don't overthink it. Don't panic yourself about it. But just rehearse through and say, it's fine. I'll deal with it. I just don't want to let it get bigger and avoid the fact that I'm going to make a mistake because you're going to make a mistake. Another one here. I understand how to reframe frustration as resilience reps, but in live trading, it can sometimes bleed into hesitation on the next setup. Do you have any techniques for flipping that discomfort into immediate constructive action so that it strengthens execution instead of slowing it down? Do you know what, Alex? If you have an issue where you feel frustrated, and then that has a pattern, this is a perfect negative visualization for you. You've identified a pattern of frustration that leads to hesitation. And so you now can think through all the times that you get frustrated and repeat the fact that you then hesitated, run that pattern in your mind, but reprogram it outside of the real market so that your mind goes, in the real market conditions, I know how he wants me to react. He doesn't want me to hesitate. He wants me to feel frustrated, let it dissipate, and then when I see the trade, execute. Will it fix it immediately? No. But what it will do is you build these reps slowly in your brain that actually say, hey, hang on, I've got this link between frustration and hesitation. That's hardwired. I need to unpick that and hardwire frustration, dissipate back to the process. And that then helps you build that feeling. And then in the real world, or the kind of heat of the moment in the live market, should I say, real world, live market, when you feel the frustration, you go, what do I do here? I let it dissipate. What do I have for a signal? I have this as my next signal. Okay, am I happy with that? Yes. And you immediately remove any ambiguity of the next trade, and you say, hey, I've got to be cautious and mindful of frustration. Denise says, okay, we'll do. Thank you, Denise. Alison says, Alison. No, she doesn't. She says, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, Alison. This is brilliant. Having attended many of your webinars, I've been applying these principles to my trading of late, and it's made such a difference. Thanks again for putting these together. Very generous of you, Alison. That is music to my ears. I love to hear stuff like that. Good. You're the one that's doing the work and putting the effort in. I'm just sharing stuff that I think is valuable. You're picking little bits that maybe help you move forward, and it's making you a better trader. Then we are winning. Good. Thank you for that feedback, Alison. I do appreciate it. Okay, Robin. Hi, Mark. Great webinar as usual. Cheers, Robin. I already use a library of my recorded trades, both wins and losses, to reinforce my mindset. How would you recommend I integrate drills like loss conditioning with that practice so I can keep strengthening my armor without dulling my execution edge? Okay, Robin, so you are recording your trades and I guess you're categorizing them into wins, losses, certain maybe setups and operational things like that. So I guess one of the things you could ultimately do is kind of run through the trade, like in a replay, or look at the screenshot, whatever you've got as you record it, and kind of feel the emotion that you felt in that trade, especially if you're talking about a trade that didn't quite go your way or something that maybe triggered an emotion you didn't want. And then you go, hey, how do I feel with that? How do I want to feel? I bought that high as it rolled over on me. I felt frustrated because I felt like I was the sucker who was caught in the trap. How would I really want to feel? What I prefer to replace that emotion with? And so you run through, and this is why this is quite powerful, because you're running through actual lived experiences, i.e. the trade you took, and then you're reframing as you would want to perceive that trade or perceive that price action. It's not just the trade you take, of course, it's the price action. It's like, wow, I must get, it's an urgency to that. It's suddenly ripping off. Well, whoa. Is that really how you want to respond? Or do you want to be calm and go, you know what, I'm going to wait for a little pause, a pull back, a drive, this? So yeah, go through your library of recorded trades. If you've got a replay, great, or if you've got a static image, that's fine. And go through that mental process of how did I feel the price action, how did the price action make me feel, and how did the trades and executions make me feel as well. And this is separate from your execution edge. You don't want to do anything that's going to harm your edge, but at the same time, you want to do some stuff that's going to make you feel more comfortable pulling the trigger when it comes. Hope that makes sense, Robin. Paul says, thanks for the talk, sir. Really appreciate your work. Thank you, sir. Alexander says, no questions. Want to say I just want to say that I am loving these webinars. Thank you, Alexander. It's very kind of you, pal. I missed last week as I was traveling now, but luckily in the airport lounge. Hope you're going somewhere nice. So really great to hear that we can get the recordings. Yep, Alexander, you can absolutely. I appreciate you guys coming live. It's nice to have some questions and someone's actually there, rather than just a little dot on the webcam there. But thank you, Alex. Very appreciative of your kind words, as I am to all you guys. It's really nice. One of the reasons I do this is I think if it can help people become better traders, that's perfect. You take one or two things and discard the rest. One or two slides resonate, discard the rest. That's my job done. Okay, a few more questions and then we're done. Wilfred says, I feel relentless and watch my trade from time to time after placing some orders, and sometimes I take profits earlier. I feel relentless and watch my trade from time to time placing some orders, and sometimes I take profits earlier. Wilfred, I don't quite know what you're asking me there. Probably the usual stuff that all our traders feel is that over analyzing trades, eager to take profits. So let's assume that's the kind of challenge for you. The quick answer for me would be negative visualization. I'm going through that. And if you run through the process of, I take my profits early, I feel really awful about it, but okay, how do I really want to think about it? No problem. How do I do that operationally? Maybe I have a timer. Maybe I try to close half. Maybe I piecemeal out of it. So there's kind of two things you do there. And in the heat of the moment, if you do take your profits early, feel it, own it, not let it influence you. But I will say this may well be an operational problem to fix rather than a mental problem. In other words, do you have a reason to close the trade? Have you got a trading plan that says, hey, it's an A to B trade, I take it all out here, or I trail it under a moving average, or I peel off half? You need to have that in place. It's not necessarily a topic today, but it's a pertinent point, I think. You need to have a plan in place how you're going to manage the trade. Otherwise, you're like, oh, I took profits too early. Like, well, you were just reacting to price. Was that the plan, or did you want to hold it till the end of the day and actually you broke that rule? So it's important to have that there. Denise says this session was excellent. Thank you. It dovetails nicely with the book I'm currently reading, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Yes, it's a great book. It's a great book. And actually, then Marcus Aurelius, Marcus Aurelius, he's the Daily Stoic guy, isn't he, Ryan Holiday? He's a Daily Stoic guy. Luca says, thanks for the information and doing this for us. You're welcome, Luca. Richard says, thank you very much. Great as ever. Appreciate your feedback, ladies and gentlemen. All right, traders, the markets are waiting your participation if you wish. It's been a pleasure as always. We've got the next one, or the next webinar will be same time next week. Final webinar in the series, bringing this all together. So taking the best bits and kind of going through some new stuff to really build that robust mental armor, create that concentration that kind of we can build, come back so we can become good at reading price and good at trading. And then the final one, of course, is the self-awareness of understanding how we're feeling, sharpen all those up, and then things start to get a lot better, a lot easier. Okay, with that being said, have a good evening, ladies and gents. Take care. I shall see you next week. Thank you so much for your feedback. It's much appreciated. Thank you. Bye-bye.